Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the first ever episode of the Property Pulse. I'm here with my good friend Paul Stapleton from Casita Properties. I'm, of course, Sam Norris from Grand Union Finance. Hello, everybody, and welcome to what we hope will be a very successful new show that we're going to be working on. And we've got one person viewing already, so we're doing something right. How are we doing, Paul? Right?
Really good. Very busy day. I think this is my third live that I'm on today, so it's been a busy day of talking, and just lots of box ticking exercises with the checklist today before I go away. So
well, this is part of what the reason behind. I know we went live earlier on Instagram just to sort of do a bit of an intro into what this show is all about. But I guess before we start just doing a quick intro into who we are, I guess an intro to the show, and the reason for it is that, you know, you and I have known each other for a little while now, Paul, and we talk fairly regularly. And I think we both sort of got to the point where we said to each other, well, hang on a second, when we have these conversations, when we jump on the phone and it's meant to be a 5-minute conversation, but it ends up being a 25 or a 45 or even a 55-minute conversation, we're talking about good, interesting stuff that hopefully, you know, the wider property community would actually find interesting, enjoy, and maybe learn something from. And this is our way, I guess, of having our regular conversations with other people being able to watch in and hear what we've got to say, and obviously at the same time hopefully interact. Anyone that's watching this either on LinkedIn or on YouTube can post comments, any questions you've got, anything you want us to discuss. We can do that too. So it's a way of interacting with people at the same time as just having a good old chin wag. And as you said earlier on, bit of a rant, because at the moment it's really frustrating to be in the world of property, isn't it?
Yeah. and I think the great thing about these as well is that if you've got a number of people on here all sharing their questions, their frustrations, they could potentially be questions that would really benefit you, that you maybe haven't thought of asking, or they might be experiences that you haven't already gone through, and it could potentially be the information you need to stop you from making that next expensive mistake in your property journey. Is there any way of me seeing who's on here as well, Sam, or is that just limited to you?
It might just be limited to me. I think I can see in the top left-hand corner there's a little sort of there's a number that keeps changing from 0 to 1 to 2 to 1 to 0. Cool. But anyone that does turn up late, by the way, this will become something that you can re-watch afterwards. So it's not going to be going anywhere.
Just say hello in the comments if you're on here anyway, and then we can just talk to you as well on here.
Absolutely. Well, I guess should we kick off, Paul, by just doing a couple of intros? Do you want to introduce yourself, Paul, first and foremost, and then I'll do one myself?
Yeah. So I'm Paul Stapleton. I run a couple of businesses. As you can see behind me, I have a company called Casita Properties, which is an off-market buy-to-let sales platform for landlords. It's a great way of selling a tenanted property without the hassle of multiple viewings and just time wasters, really. They're all sold to pre-qualified investors. I also co-host an events company called Peak Performance, which again is a great platform for anyone in business or wanting to become an entrepreneur, or just really wanting to network with some good people, be inspired to come along to. We hold events every 2 months in London, soon to kind of travel a bit more as well up north. So again, if you want to find out more, connect with me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, Paul Stapleton, Casita Properties.
Brilliant. And I've been to both of your events so far, Paul, and they've been really great. The people that are there, good caliber. It's like a who's who of sort of Insta famous property people and business people, isn't it? It's great.
It's like that. It's that after show party that you want to go to after the Brits, isn't it? It's got everyone that's at the top of their game in there. And again, that's not necessarily a kind of reflection of the event, because the event is a bit unknown. It's to do with the networking that myself and Aaron have done for many years and built up, coming to A, support us, and B, believing in what we do and coming to get some real value from the speakers. So networking is key, and it doesn't happen overnight.
And I like what you said about mentioning about potentially going further up north. Obviously, I'm a Londoner based in Brum, so I mean, obviously the place to come will be Brom. So we've had the Commonwealth Games. Next has got to be the peak performance event, surely.
Well, if you've had the Commonwealth Games, you've got to share the love with the rest of the country now, haven't you?
Nah. That just shows where you need to go.
It's a good middle ground, isn't it? We just put one foot outside of the M25. We'll step into Birmingham, and then we'll work our way further north.
Yeah.
But no, definitely, I think the next 2 or 3 are going to be London based, and then we're gonna head north.
Awesome.
And
stuff.
Again, that's all about networking, isn't it? There's no point constantly networking in the same area because you're only going to see the same people. So it's all about that. So I see, is it Jocelyn's just said hello on there? Hi, Jocelyn.
Hey, Jocelyn.
Hope you're well.
Yeah, I think she's somebody that I've connected with on Instagram as well. So good to see you on other platforms as well, Jocelyn. But I guess to quickly introduce myself as well, for those that don't know, my name is Sam Norris and I'm the owner and director of Grand Union Finance. So as much as we've got Paul on the side of the investor, I can hopefully lend an ear and eye to and give you some insight into what's happening in the finance world. But all my clients are investors, and I've been doing this for 15 years. So I've had the privilege really of being able to work with some of the country's best up and coming and young investors, and hopefully actually have been a part of their success of how they've got to where they are today. And just by doing that, you get a fascinating insight into how various different investors tick and what they do that makes them great. I did actually do a presentation at a property event at the beginning of the year, which is actually all about my tick box or a sort of exercise going through the things that makes great investors great rather than just good. So hopefully I can give some insight into that. But really, we were laughing about this, but it's actually probably what we're going to end up doing today. Is a lot of this is going to be, at the moment, working in property, it's really freaking frustrating working in property at the moment. So I think a lot of this live might be quite ranty, but hopefully
relatable.
Yeah, but I think everyone's feeling that stress at the moment, that frustration, just nothing quite working as it should do, So I don't know if you wanted to sort of kick off, Paul. What's been some of your frustrations, your frustrations that you've seen over the last sort of 4 weeks or so, the last month? Is there anything in particular that you can think of that's just stressing you out, particularly at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, like, you'll be able to relate to this, but I think the delays in kind of turnaround times in responding from lenders at the moment, that's really been difficult. As I said to you before, you have a goal of where you want to be on Monday, and because of the delays in actually responding to you, people are taking the whole week to come back to you and then asking another question. And before you know it, you're actually further back by Friday than you were at the start of Monday. And I would say that process is probably adding nearly 2 months onto some of our deals to complete. And as a commission-based company that's paid upon legal completion, that can add another level of stress, not just only the stress of your time being wasted, but it also adds to financial stress, as it does for the vendor that's wanting to complete and might need those funds, and as it does for maybe the mortgage broker, the solicitor that gets paid. Everyone typically gets paid at a certain point within the transaction, and mainly it's going to be on completion. So yeah, they add another level of stress, but that's why something that we always talk about is having a strong pipeline of multiple transactions going through, so you're not just relying on that one. Absolutely,
no, I couldn't agree more. And to give, I guess, I'm in the perfect position to talk about what's going on in the lending market at the moment. It is frustrating, and you're absolutely right in what you say in terms of it's adding on 2 months, sometimes more than that, to the transaction times. The one thing, I guess, just to add a little bit of a positive spin onto this, because it's easy to throw frustrations at various different people that are working within the property sector. As an investor, you've got all these different people, these different touch points. You've got the lenders, you've got the brokers, you've got the solicitors, you've got the agents, you've got surveyors. Just to give, I guess, some positive feedback to those guys, is everyone in there is working as hard as they can to get those transactions done. Lenders want to lend, as you quite correctly said, most of the other people within that transaction are only getting paid at some point throughout that transaction, and mainly at the end. So everyone's got a reason to want it to happen, and lenders do want to lend. They've got a lot of money. I've just literally seen just before we came on air that a bridging lender that we work with quite a lot called Mint have just secured another multi-million pound funding line from Aldermore. So there is money everywhere. So a bank like Aldermore that lend on buy-to-let residential HMO, multi-unit freeholds and commercial property, they do development finance. They do all of this. They've got all their own methods of lending this money, and they still can't get it out the door quick enough. So they have to lend some of it to other lenders that are then going to lend it for them. So there's so much money about. These lenders do want to get money out the door. So in terms of the frustration towards lenders, it is they're not doing this on purpose, by any stretch of the imagination. They want to be lending, they want to get it done. I've got a good friend of mine called Dave, who is probably one of the most in the specialist industries. He's one of the most well-known kind of business development managers within the lending market, and he's bald. But he said to me, Sam, if I had hair, I'd be bald now because I'd be pulling it out because I'm getting so frustrated. With this industry, and my job is to try and drum up business. Well, how can I drum up business when I work for a lender like he works for Fleet Mortgages? They've got, at the moment, it's just gone down. Actually, it was 18 working day turnaround to a 15 working day turnaround. But even so, 15 working days is ridiculous. How can he sell that to brokers? Because the pricing isn't actually that brilliant at the moment because they've changed that. Their criteria is decent. But their turnaround times are ridiculous, and it's the same with so many lenders at the moment. So it's a frustrating market for everyone. But I guess to give, I guess I said to you as well. I've explained this to you, but for anyone that's watching, is the reason behind why lenders are so busy at the moment, why they're so behind with things, is basically it's all the Bank of England's fault. Basically, because what happens is, so the Bank of England, they put their base rate up. Now, you've got lenders like your Barclays, your Santanders, that kind of stuff. Yeah, of course, they will increase their rates, but they probably don't have to increase their rates every time there's a Bank of England base rate. They can swallow certain. I mean, a lot of them have done, obviously, off the back of the 0.5% increase, but some of the smaller ones, the 0.25s over the course of the year, these lenders can swallow them up a little bit because they're massive organisations and they can afford to. The smaller lenders, which is the ones that the likes of you and I are going to use and our clients are going to use, that the investors need, your Kent Reliances, your Fleets, your Precise Mortgages, all these kind of things, they're much smaller in comparison. They're what we call challenger banks, challenger lenders. So they don't have the ability to do that. They've got to change their rates pretty much every single time the Bank of England issue a rate increase. And what happens is they will they'll decide that they're going to increase their rates, but what they have to do first is they have to withdraw the rates that they currently have. So they'll issue what they call a withdrawal notice. So they will send a message out to all their direct clients, all their brokers, say look, we're increasing our rates, so we're going to withdraw our current rates. You have 3 days to get your to get your applications in. And of course, what happens is this.
Lost you there.
I've got absolutely no idea where I've gone.
We can hear you anyway, mate. I suppose,
okay.
While you're sorting that out, I suppose just every lender has a different appetite to risk, and it's gone again. I suppose every lender's going to have a different appetite to risk, and I'm sure the higher risk they have an appetite for, the criteria. I was just saying, every lender's going to have a different appetite to risk, and the higher the rate of risk that lender will accept, the more tick boxes there will be in order for you to be accepted. And what comes with that is more work, and more work takes more time. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But and so they have all of that, but then every time that they have to withdraw their their products. They're getting a massive influx of applications all at the same time, which if they're used to getting, say, 100 applications a day, I don't know what the actual numbers are like, and then suddenly they're getting 300 applications a day, that's a workload that they don't have the infrastructure to deal with. So it means that their service level agreements, their SLAs as we call them, which is basically the time that they promise they will get stuff done within, goes up and up and up. Now, what happened over time, that will of course come down a bit. So you have, we were talking the other day, weren't we? Usually it's sort of 2 to 3 days. You said submit an application for a mortgage, 2 to 3 days later, the lender has a look at it for the first time. And if you haven't submitted any documentation, which we'll talk about that in a sec as well, then that's when they'll issue a list of stuff that they need you to send in. But what happens when you've got month on month rate increases is that they don't have a natural enough the normal time for them to return to their normal SLA. So let's say that the normal turnaround time is sort of 2 to 3 days, and then it goes to 4 to 5, and then they're able to get that down to 3 to 4, but then suddenly the Bank of England increases their rates again, and we go through that whole process again. So then instead of it starting from 2 to 3 and going up to 4 to 5, it starts from 3 to 4 and goes up to 5 to 6. And then that's happened 6 times or whatever it is on the trot, which has led to where we're at with 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 days sometimes, in terms of these turnaround times, these lead times. And that's the reason for it. So, I mean, I've been crying out, for the last 3 months. This has been a problem for about 3 months now, where it's really started to edge up. And I've been screaming from the rafters for the Bank of England just to have one month off, just have a break, to give lenders that full time to really, really get themselves back to normal.
And you can find these service level times. You can typically find them on the lenders' websites, can't you?
Most of the time they will have them. There's some lenders that do, some lenders that don't. But it will say SLA,
subject to change.
Subject to change, of course. But at least it gives you an inkling, and more so than ever before. And this is what you were talking about earlier, Paul. You get, for me as a broker, it adds extra work to the process, because when I'm doing my research, I'm now more than ever before, especially if we're refinancing a client's property, we have to take into account turnaround times as well, because if a client needs to refinance because they come off their fixed rate in 6 weeks, well, there's no point us going to a lender, even if they're the cheapest, that are not going to be able to do it in time. I mean, very few lenders are probably going to be able to do it in 6 weeks.
But the problem is, you could choose that lender, and you could start to submit, and then they could change their turnaround time halfway through anyway. So it is the roll of the dice, isn't it?
We had that. Aldermore are one of the worst offenders at the moment.
Can we not swear on here? Can we not swear on here, please?
I don't actually mind Aldermore. They again, this is so on you saying that, it's funny because I purposely, when I'm talking to my clients, I purposely mention lenders' names in conversations, because I want to try and see if it gets any kind of reaction out of them. Because if I say, "Oh, Paragon," and then they go, "Oh, I'll tell you what, I've had a bad experience with them." There's 2 things I can take from that, right? So, especially if it's a brand new client. Number one, I can go, well, if Aldermore do come up top, then if Paragon do come up top, I'll go, yeah, do you know what, we're going to do it, and I'm going to show you how the application process should go.
Got a perfect container for it, waterproof and everything.
Or you just go, look, do you want me just to discount them completely from the research? We won't use them. Has it been that bad? And the great thing is I think, as a brokerage, this is why, within my organisation, and I know when we did our podcast episode, when you come on as a guest, we were talking, I was asking you quite a lot about how you expanded your company and you've got lots of people working for you and getting the right people in. But this is why, one of my first roles that I employed for when I started Grand Union Finance was the role of what I now call the operations manager. Ruby is my operations manager, and it's her job to understand the process of how each and every one of these lenders works, better than anyone. And I'd say she pretty much does. The feedback she gets from lenders is unbelievable in terms of how she does it. So she will know that, like, this lender, they are going to ask this question. They're gonna need information about this. They're gonna need information about that. Even if it's not written, on there, and this is kind of, I guess, where I wanted to move this on to in terms of, people's frustrations with lenders asking for your inside leg measurement. It's actually just being proactive and knowing what these lenders are going to ask for. And this is, I think this is one of the underrated reasons to use a broker when you're doing these things and not necessarily go direct to the lender yourself, is that brokers will know, or they should know, what these processes are inside out, back to front, and good ones will be proactive. We like to think of ourselves as a very proactive brokerage, and we're always looking to get and gather all the information we need up front rather than doing it in drips and drabs throughout the application process, which stands in really good stead at the moment because of all of these delays that we're talking about. It means that we are generally one step ahead and things get done as quickly as they can be done, rather than them taking those extra 2 to 3 months. We're able to try and cut that down because we are hopefully seeing what lenders need in advance and getting it to them.
Almost like a BDM role kind of thing. So like a business development manager that's just managing those relationships and just making sure that she's in with the BDMs at the other lenders. And
to a degree, yeah. I mean, I talk to a lot of the BDMs myself because I've got those relationships. As I was saying on the live earlier on, one guy who is now pretty much the top dog at Kent Reliance and Precise, a guy called Adrian Maloney. He was my BDM when I first started in mortgages, and he's risen all the way up. So now I've got his number on the phone. And if I very rarely call him. I'll only call him in an emergency because I don't believe that you should just be that guy that just pulls in favors 24/7. But it means I've got that relationship with somebody at the very, very top. And if there is a problem, there's been probably twice since I started Grand Union that I've called him and gone, Adrian, I need your help with this. And he literally just says, Sam, just consider it done, mate. It's sorted. And then within 24 hours, it's done. But I'll only do that, when I've exhausted all other avenues. It's nice to do that. But you are absolutely right. The role of the BDM is crucial. And trust me, there is a huge raft of difference between the good ones and the not so good ones. And the good ones will get involved. They'll have the power to make decisions, to influence, to get hold of a case and put it to the front of a queue, because they know that time is of the essence. They'll be able to engage with you and make you understand the process, to be able to talk you through the underwriting decisions and all that kind of stuff. And then the not so good ones, unfortunately, all they do is they're like yes men and women. They just go yeah, we can do that, and then problems occur, and you dig in with them, and they don't give anything back. And there are a few out there. One actually in particular, I saw a few months ago, and they told me that they believe that they were the best BDM in the industry, and I didn't. And I purposefully didn't respond to that question, because my response would have been, I think you're probably on the other end of that. You're probably one of the worst.
It's such a vital job in such a changing market as well. It's where it is today. It could be completely different tomorrow with just one news article or one changing in a inflation, or one changing in a base rate. So you need someone that's proactive, that's forward thinking, and that's a really good problem solver. And unfortunately, not only in the lending industry, but in most industries, the people that are put in those positions just aren't those people. They're not problem solvers, they're problem creators, actually. And it's a frustration that I think, and I don't know if you agree, has been born out of COVID, because I think as much as, say for yourself, I know you work from home, but you said to me, like, you like to go to the gym and work when you're at home, and that. I think you've got half of the world that have excelled from working from home. They've set businesses up, and it's really been productive for them. You've got the other half that were the kind of people that were out there enjoying that hot summer and probably not doing the work. And that's the difference between the ones that are employed, getting a wage, and have taken the absolute piss, basically. and then you've got the ones like you and I, who we weren't fortunate enough to get furlough. We had to work, we had to graft, we had to fight, hustle, beg, borrow, steal to get through that period. And what's happened is our work ethic has changed during that period to becoming even more productive and sort of progressive through our work, as opposed to the people that are now stepping back into the corporate world, maybe working 2 or 3 days from the office, and they've come back with that lazy mentality. And that I was so shocked that I get copied into my sales progressor's emails, and she's still getting these automatic emails about how proactive as a company these solicitors are being during the global pandemic. And I'm thinking, but that cancel that at least a year ago now. Like, you can't keep using that as an excuse. You're back in the office, you're working. We are not in a pandemic. We're in a recession or approaching a recession, but we're not in a pandemic. We don't need to be using that as an excuse, but so many people are. And I think for me, the biggest people using that right now, and you may see this in a roundabout way, are still the councils, not just for planning, but for searches. Searches are taking an absolute lifetime. And it's because during lockdown, a lot of the councils saw the search industry as a part-time job. So what we're finding is that the people that work in the search companies or the search section within the councils, they're only coming in 2 days a week to handle those. And we're still seeing, especially in Durham, so in the northeast, we're still seeing 2 to 3 month waits for searches. And a lot of lenders still want a full set of searches. They will not allow insurance policies in place. So I think one of my frustrations at the moment really are still the companies and the people using the pandemic, or COVID, if you want to call it, as an excuse for just shoddy workmanship, being lazy, not doing your job, but expecting to get pay increases, expecting to get more gratitude from people. And we should be grateful that they're even answering the phone to us, because just email me. And then you get that email, don't you, that says we respond in 72 hours. And it's just like, when did
that's great. That's all cool. Like, I'm happy that they've got that communication and they're setting those expectations. But that's not good enough. And you know what, right? So I'll be completely brutally honest. You know, at the moment, you know what, I think it's really important to take time out of your day to do the kind of stuff that we're doing right now. But we're flat out. You know, I'm interviewing at the moment. I've set up interviews next week for a new administrator to come in and join the team to support Ruby. We've got a new broker that came on board about 2 months ago. Chanel, she's I mean, I can't be prouder of how she started. She's been insane, amazing. The feedback. It was actually at your event. Somebody ran across the room to come and speak to me, not to talk to me.
I remember you saying,
but to tell me that Chanel had been helping her out that week and how brilliant she'd been. Honestly, I had like tears in my eyes. But anyway,
it's a great sense of achievement as a business owner, though, isn't it? I always get on completion. I always get stuff delivered to the office, not for me, but for my sales progressor, because she has made life so much easier for our clients. But also the buyer and the seller, because she works on both sides. Yeah. And she gets lovely sort of, I don't know, like gin kits and flowers and stuff like that.
And this is what you want people like this in your organisation that are going to, as you say, be proactive, be problem solvers, this kind of stuff. I mean, but you know, even now, you know, you talk about sending out you're getting those automatic emails 72 hours and this kind of stuff. You know, I'm struggling. I'm getting clients chasing me at the moment. And it's because just, I mean, you know, one, I'd like to think we do a good enough job, word spreads, and we get good business out of it, and we get referrals and all that kind of stuff. But secondly, you know, just working on one transaction at the moment is taking more man hours than it was, you know, 6 months ago. And so it is more difficult to make just the same amount of money as a business in this industry now as it was 6 months ago, because you've got to put twice the effort into it. I
suppose if you have that as an automatic email, it's like you've already accepted that regardless of if you are or aren't busy right now, that's my turnaround time. Like, I'll come back to you in 72 hours, when really I don't even put an out of office when I'm on holiday, because if it's something that can be actioned without too much effort, it's actioned, because there's no reason for it not to, in my opinion. Yes, I'm on holiday, but I will always take an hour out of my day to answer emails. I'm not that guy that likes to come back to an inbox of 500 emails. I don't think 1 hour a day when the kids are having their little siesta is a bad thing when you're a business owner, because at the end of the day, I said it in our podcast, my business is my baby. I've grown it from birth, and yeah, I deserve a holiday, but 10 days away without spending an hour, it's a very small investment to spend whilst you're on your holiday of time to ensure that you're not coming back to an absolute world of shit.
Do you know what though? On that point, and this is, I guess, we're probably both in a position where we can talk about this actually, is anyone that's watching this that is a property investor or you know, a fledgling property investor, this probably is more to do with the fledgling property investors, is this idea within property that for some reason you've got to be a master of everything. And I guess it's, you know, same for you, similar for me. You know, I mean, I know brokers as an example in terms of our industry. I'm always hearing, you know, negative stories about brokers being, you know, taking too long to get back to people and that kind of stuff. Because traditionally, what brokers are asked to do the whole conveyor belt. You know, and we had the Industrial Revolution quite some time ago. We should know that the conveyor belt system works where you get the right people to do the particular jobs along the conveyor belt. And actually, you know, you talking about, you know, going away on holiday and you know, taking time out, which obviously is actually really, really important for business owners to give themselves that time. This hustle and grind thing, yeah, great, but it's not sustainable for the long term. You've got to have time. You know, this, and I say to Ruby all the time, you know, it gets 5 o'clock rolls around, and I say to Ruby, right, you know, come on, finish up for the day. And she's like, yeah, but there's stuff that needs doing. I said, if it gets done first thing in the morning, is it an issue? She says, well, no, it isn't, or whatever. And I go, great. So that's fine. But I think it's as a property investor, one of the things that the bits of advice that I give to clients early doors in their journey is I say to them, bring people around, start a stop doing list. You know, my accountant gave me this advice actually a year or so ago. He keeps a stop doing list. Whenever he does a task that he doesn't really want to do anymore, he puts it on his stop doing list, and he finds someone within his organization that can take that task over for him. And I do that as well, because I believe that every person within an organization should you know, focus on just on the things that they're really good at. Obviously, as business owners, we have to have that overarching look, but I believe that actually, you know, there's a ton of tasks that you want to find really good quality people to come in and fill those voids and to do those tasks.
And it's where your skill set is best used as well. I had a consultation call with a guy that just wanted a bit of advice not that long ago, and I said to him that let's do an exercise whereby we wrote down every single task there is to do within his business, even down to content creation, adding the captions. We had this conversation the other night, adding the captions onto your shorts and stuff like that, and then work out what ones you're good at, work out which ones you enjoy the most. So some of them might fall under both. You might be good at it and you might enjoy it, because I do think it's very important to do what you enjoy as well. But then put a monetary value per hour on it. So realistically, I was looking at how much do I think my time is per hour, and that is basically my wage divided by the amount of hours that I work, and I have my monetary per hour. But then I looked at how much it would cost to outsource particular tasks, and how much money I would make from my time being elsewhere. So, for instance, like content creation for him, he had a very high pound per hour. So finding someone on Fiverr over in Cambodia or Indonesia, somewhere like that, whereby he could send a ton of shorts or even a whole clip that could be divided into shorts and then everything put on them, it was coming in at like £12 per short. But that would take someone who's an expert in that maybe 15 minutes, but it would take him probably a good hour per short. And he quickly realized, you know what, you can't wear every hat in the business. You have to choose the hat that you're most suited to. Yes, you have to enjoy doing it, but you might find the things that you enjoy aren't the things that are bringing the money in for your business. And there's no point having a very expensive hobby within the business and then the business is neglected. And that was a really, really good call that we had. And it actually made me come away and look at my business a bit more, because there's no point giving the advice if you're not practicing it as well.
Completely.
So yeah, I think it's about doing what you enjoy, what you're good at, but where your time is best suited. And sometimes, as the director, the CEO of the company, some of the most profitable tasks, they might not actually lie with you. That might not be the skill set. In most companies, the biggest expert in the business is not always the director. The director is a good businessman, but he might just be the director, and there's an operations manager overseeing everything, and people that are experts in whatever part of the field that you're operating in, and you might be doing something completely different outside of the business. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important to evaluate the different hats in the business and what hat best suits you to wear, and not wearing too many hats as well. Otherwise you become a busy fool and do nothing effectively.
Exactly. And I've done that. Within the last 2 years, there have been periods where I've done that. But one of the big privileges of running the business, of being the person at the top, because let's be honest. So for you, it's Casita. For me, it's Grand Union. That's what we're all working for. Even if you're the director, even if you're the owner, you still work for that business. But being at the top gives you the creative, and the managerial, ability to be able to choose the role that you're going to then play in that business. Just because you own it doesn't mean you should be CEO.
No.
What might be the best thing for you to be is a business development manager.
Yeah.
And yeah, you bring in the people. Like I said, I've got Ruby that's come in just nearly 2 years ago now to slowly but surely build up and run and improve our operations to eventually manage. When we get this new administrator in, she will manage both that and administrator, and then eventually the team of administrators as well as the team of brokers. Obviously, Chanel's come in. So we brought Chanel in. So I was spending all day being a broker. I didn't have any time to build, run, and improve our company. And by bringing Chanel in and hopefully another broker by the end of the year, it allows me to do less brokering on a day-to-day basis. Always continue working with my existing clients, definitely. But to give myself the opportunity to work and support Ruby more, because that's important. But then also to work on other aspects of the business that, as you say, we're not necessarily getting the attention it needs, the marketing side. For example, that's something that you were talking about, creating content, all that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. It's something that I find enjoyable, and so I want to do more of that sort of stuff. So
but it's not necessarily bringing the money in that maybe you need to. And I don't know how you feel about this. I was on a live the other day, and I think the topic was generational wealth, and I think you and I are quite similar, is that we've built our brands up around us being the face of it. And they were talking about building businesses that you can pass through generations, and I said to him, I actually don't know if Casita would be Casita in 5 years' time if I sold the business. And actually brought up peak performance as well. And I said, and this is without sounding big-headed, peak performance is me and Aaron. It's the personalities behind peak performance, the relationships we had. And they said, are you looking to build it up to a business whereby you can then sell it on? And I don't think it's that kind of business, because I think we are the brand. And if there is no Paul at Casita, there is no Paul and Aaron at Peak Performance, there is no Sam maybe at Grand Union Finance, might be different for you because you might have a little black book of clients. But I don't see this being a business that could potentially be valued and sold highly, or could be passed down through generations, because I am the brand, if that makes sense. So I don't know how you feel about Grand Union.
Yeah. So my philosophy on that is, I think it's when you're starting a business, when you're starting from scratch, I think having the face of the business is really important, because in the 21st century, we as human beings, we affiliate much more to the personality rather than the brand. People know Richard Branson, or Richard Branson's got more followers than Virgin. Bill Gates has got more followers than Microsoft. Elon Musk has got more followers, more people interested in him than Tesla and SpaceX combined.
Because you get more content and information from the individual than the constant sales patter from the business.
Exactly. But, and this is what I've explained to the team, even now, I'm talking to them about it, is that I don't want it to just be all about me, because I'm not an egotistical person, despite what I've had a few people say certain things to me over the years in terms of the content I produce. So it's all about your ego, Sam. And I'm like, honestly, if you knew what was going on inside my head, you truly, truly wouldn't believe that. I don't want it to be all about me. I want it to be all about Grand Union. I want people to know who everyone in the team is. And I said to them, the way I see it is a little bit like, obviously not in terms of it being a comedy, but if you think about an episode of The Office, or any kind of soap opera for that matter, but The Office is a good example because it's a company. Actually, I can't remember what the name of the company is or what even they do. But you've got, Ricky Gervais's character is the face of it. He's the main character. So you and I might be the Ricky Gervais character, but everyone knows all of the supporting cast as well. And I said, to me, that's what a good marketing strategy for a business in the 21st century shouldn't just be about the face of that business. And it's the same. I think it's the same with a property business. Yourselves included in that, is everyone that's within that business, try and work them in. I talk about Ruby a lot. It's become habit now because, and she promotes that because she's so good at what she does. So I do bring her up in my conversations. But I do kind of do that on purpose as well, because I want people to say, like, when I get a new client that's been following me for a while and they suddenly come along and say, I want to work with you. And I say, okay, let me introduce you to Ruby. They go, oh yeah, I know Ruby. You talk about Ruby. I talk about my wife a lot, as well. So, people know a little bit about sort of my home life and stuff like that, which is all good. But you slowly bring in, and this is where, I've been talking to Chanel, I've been talking to Ruby about, getting them to do more content, more video stuff, but be in stories and things like that. What you do is you grow the brand. It's the personal brand becomes a personal brand plus. It's not just about one individual, it's about many. And then what you also then get to do is there are going to be certain people that have affiliations to certain people over others. And there might be, some people might not like me, but they might love Chanel, and why wouldn't they? She's awesome. So,
and that's the benefit, because they can still buy from your business, but they buy from the person that they like. And
exactly.
Because let's be fair, like, we're both nice guys. We're both charismatic. We both know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But for some people, it's like you said, someone said you were egotistical doing your videos. That might be a good enough reason not to do business with you. However, if Ruby answered the phone, then it's a different ball game.
It is.
I'm that guy that if the nicey approach doesn't work with my staff, I'm the guy with a set of teeth that will come in and get it done. And if I can't get it done, the deal's never going to be closed. Mm-hmm. But it's like you said, getting everyone out. So I talk a lot about my sales progressor, and I don't really mention her name a lot. She's pretty shy. She'll never get on camera. But you would have met her at the last two events. And that's why I always bring my staff to the events, because the people that come to the events either work with me, or they know of the business, or they will work with us in the future. And I think it's great for them to be there as well, to be the face of Casita, in order for people to realise who they're dealing with, who they're talking to at the end of the phone. So many people have come back and commented about Mandy, how lovely she is and everything like that. And that's what I see all day, every day. And that's what people hear over the phone and see over the emails, but they never get to come into the office and see her. To be fair, she doesn't even come in the office. She just moved to Lincolnshire now, so she works remotely. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you that if you're going to networking events, bring one or two of them along with you, so that you're introducing them and stuff like that. Because at some point you will be in a position where not you're too big for the company, but you'll be going on to bigger and better things, because those 3 or 4 brokers within a team of 10 have stepped it up a gear, and they're ready to take your place. And I don't know if you met, I won't mention the name, but my friend has a mortgage company in London. And I remember when it was all him, and it was him and someone else. They left a company, they set up themselves, they grafted for 2 years, and it was just them. Now I've just had to turn them down for sponsorship, because obviously we have a mortgage broker at the event. But the thing is, they're now a team of 25. all in-house. It's not like there's 25 that are remotely working and you can say they're working for you, but they probably do 1 or 2 transactions. There's 25 people working within their office, and he doesn't handle cases anymore. He is just out there looking after all the BDMs, taking them out to lunch, making sure that he's keeping the rest of the team abreast of what they're all saying. So he's effectively stepped out of a director role into a BDM role, so everybody else can do the policy work and the submissions and that. Yeah. And I can't wait to have that catch up with him soon to hear how he did it, because it'll probably be different to the conversation we had about how I did it and anyone that you know. But now when he's talking to me about attending events and that, he's not even going. He's saying, I'm going to send John, I'm going to send David, I'm going to send Sarah there, because they know a lot more than I fucking do. And I think that's great. And I think that's obviously where you're looking to go with it. And I think...
But you know what it is? It's sorry to cut you off. It was only just quickly, because when you were saying about what he's done there, this is the other thing that people forget, I think, when they're in it. You know, people from the outside looking in, it makes a lot of sense to do exactly what you just said. And to be honest, that's pretty much, you know, where things are headed with Grand Union. It's about that figurehead, taking that conversation full circle to that personal brand, that figurehead, that person that's in charge. There are certain morals that person has, a certain way about that they go about doing what they do. You know, a certain level of knowledge, insight, you know, all that kind of stuff, and also the operational way in which the company works. You know, you talk about your case progressors. You know, they would have worked to create, you know, that with you, the way that operation works, that filters down. So the person at the top, you know, I'll go back to talking about someone like Richard Branson, because I think he's a really, really good example of this. He has a very particular type of personality, and he is synonymous with Virgin, but you then expect, and you probably get that personality shine through when you speak to somebody else that works for Virgin. You know, Richard Branson may very well never have spoken to that particular individual, because that company's humongous now.
They've modelled themselves on their idol, haven't
exactly.
they?
The person at the top, you know, the way that they conduct themselves, the way they do business, and the way that they want their business to be run filters down. You know, Chanel, for example, came from another brokerage, and she's already said to me that she's going about doing things in a different way because she's had the opportunity now to sit on Zoom calls with clients with me. How do I talk to my clients? What information do I get from them? You know, how do we utilize various different systems, processes, softwares to work and you know, hopefully give our clients the best service that we possibly can do, and keep improving that. And she's been able to take what she already had and then become a Grand Union broker. Rather than whatever she was before broker.
And I think a great example of that, and you would have probably witnessed that at the event, is let's look at our good friend Tyrone Ash. He's built a brand, he's built a persona of who he is, what he's all about, what he believes in, how he sells properties. And when you look at his young, enthusiastic, aspirational team that want big things, big dreams, and let's just say it, that walk around like their shit doesn't stink. You can see Tyrone, whether it's a girl or a boy, or from whatever background, whatever country, ethnicity, gender, set, whether they're gay, they're straight, whatever it is, you can see parts of Tyrone in every single one of those people. And it's because of his training, his likability. Yeah, lots of people don't like him. We know that, but lots of people don't like Richard Branson. But lots of people don't like Richard Branson. Lots of people don't like Alan Sugar. There's lots of people probably don't like you and I. To be fair, we don't.
A lot of people don't like me. That's for sure. I know that, particularly on TikTok.
But we don't care, because at the end of the day, the only people that matter are the people that are around us, that are supporting us, building us up, and making money with us, or that we're helping. And I think that's a prime example of a business whereby the staff look up to the owner takes them under their wing, they train them, they look after them, and look, whether you believe what you see on social media or the TV show, that's how it is. I think first-hand experience from speaking to the guy, I think you've known the guy before. He seems pretty genuine, and he seems to want to help people get up. Is he an arsehole? I think he probably is on the phone to people. Am I an arsehole? I can be if someone's not pulling their weight. Are you? Probably. And at the end of the day, it's just business. And business is cutthroat. And unless you're pulling your weight, unless you're doing what's expected of you, we're not in industries whereby you can take a wage home and be comfortable. You are going to be uncomfortable. This is all performance related. And in a performance related role, the pressure's on. The pressure's always on. And you may be top of the board for Q1, but come Q2, if you're below number 10 in the business, I guarantee you're not getting the same treatment from the top man anymore, or the top lady in the business. You won't be getting that. So it's very fickle as well, isn't it? It's very fickle. And you could have been someone's mortgage broker for the last 10 years, but if you mess up on one transaction and lose them a bit of money, guess what? They're on to the next one. They'll forget about you in a heartbeat. And all the good transactions and all the money you've made them over the last 10 years will be lost from that one bad one. And they badmouth you often every opportunity they get. If you ever come up in conversation, and it's something that I've always said to people, it takes a lifetime to build up a reputation and a second to lose it. So you have to treat everybody, regardless of the value of their business, the same, like they're your best client. Because
Absolutely.
it could that potential transaction could be so detrimental to your business, your brand, and you personally.
Completely. And do you know what? You what was I going to say to you? Because you were talking about Tara and Ash, I was remembering the conversations that we were having, but because I got the chance to speak to him a little bit afterwards, which was really, really insightful. It gave me some good insight into how he's built his business as well, and some of the things that I can take on board, particularly the remote aspect of that, which possibly will come. I know we've spoken about it briefly before. We'll come back onto that. Is you talk about reputation. Now, I got two. I've seen both sides of the coin here, which is in the past, I know that I've been that broker that's let people down. I'm a great believer that you should take responsibility. It's been very
100%.
easy, and I can list off a million reasons why those situations that occurred were not necessarily my fault. But I think I've become a better broker by actually taking on and saying, right, okay, what was the issue here? Why did I not win that business? Why did that client decide to go elsewhere? Why did, after we've done several transactions, they decided to go and use another broker? What were those reasons? And ask them as well. And I'm always very open with my clients. What can I be doing better all the time? And I think anyone in any business should always be asking what they can do better. A great example might be someone like yourself, who you might be dealing with estate agents, right, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent. Let's not be sexist now. What can I do to be top of the tree in terms of the people that you want to work with? What do they do? What are your best investors do to work with you the best? Always be doing that kind of stuff. But
it's almost a way of them telling you how to sell to me, isn't it? If you say, like, what is it that you look for from an investor in order to work with them, and they go, well, we need them to be honest, not lie to us, be quick, always communicate. Fantastic. You've just basically told me now how I need to position myself.
Mate, I do the same with lenders. I do the same with lenders, and I guarantee you, because I ask the question, I ask lenders whether other brokers do this. Whenever I'm working with a lender for the first time, or it's been a while since maybe I've asked the question of them, or things haven't gone quite right on a few transactions, I'm always saying to them, right, treat me like an idiot, talk me through your process. How do I become your best broker? How, particularly with bridging lenders and development finance lenders, that kind of stuff. Right. We're going to say Mrs. Lender this time. And there's no Mr. Mrs. Lender. We're going to be an equal opportunity.
Lender neutral lender. Please tell me.
They I speak to them, and they say they'll say, right, okay, well, this is what we're after, Sam. This is what we want from our brokers. And then all we do is we've got different processes for different lenders. One lender wants this, another lender wants that. Ruby knows this because she's in on all those conversations. This comes full circle in terms of getting the right people in to understand different parts of the process. But I'm asking those questions constantly. How can I be your best at X? And I think that's the how can I help you? How can I be better? How can I improve? How can I, work with you and create this relationship a lot better? Because number one, people are so susceptible to that, and I'll say it to clients. What can I do differently? And this is what I was going to say before.
It goes a long way though as well, because then it makes you feel like you really care as well about it. I think I asked you a couple of days after. I said to you, Sam, what did you think of the last event? You said it was wicked, and I said to you, was there anything that you saw from an attendee's point of view that, as the host, because I was running around like a headless chicken, that you would have liked to have seen differently? And we had that discussion, and it was quite funny because they were all points that Aaron and I had already.
Yeah, but it's nice to have that validation, isn't it? That actually, other people have seen this as well. So making that change will create a slightly. It's the slight edge, isn't it? The slight edge rule, that 1%. Just make those minor changes, and they compound into big ones.
Well, I think as a service provider, I think as a service provider, you're always going to look at your service from a buyer's point of view. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, your opinion of your service, yes, it's important, but it's not the most important, because your opinion doesn't pay the bills. What pays the bills is the purchaser or the purchaser, the buyer. And if I thought that we were doing it right every time, and we stopped listening to the people that are actually paying money to come to the events, it wouldn't be long until you stop coming to the events. There's a reason why people keep coming to the events. It's because we're looking and listening to what was good and what wasn't good. And when we're planning the next one, we're saying we'll keep that, but we need to change that. And you've been party to those conversations. And I think that's like any part of anyone's business, isn't it? It's only a mistake if you make it more than once. Just once is a learning curve. And you go on and you become a bigger and better person or company from that. Yeah,
and you know what? It's you're absolutely spot on, and it's the same in any business, in any industry. And as I was kind of just sort of, I suppose, touching on there, it is those little things. And I think a lot of people, particularly in properties, they're looking at the big picture, when actually a lot of the time slicing it down into those small little things that you can do differently on a day-to-day basis culminate in a huge amount of difference. And that's what I speak to quite a lot of my clients about, seeing where my really successful clients, they do this or they do that, or they conduct themselves in this particular way, or they're always ready to do X, Y, Z. And I filter this into conversations with new clients, because I think, well, these little things, if it's worked for them, it will work for these new investors as well, and they can take that on board and become better at what they do, and they can rise to become these great investors. But it takes time, I think this is where it comes down to, is people get frustrated because they look, I've got to make all these little tiny changes that are going to end up making me better in 3, 4, 5, 6 years time. Well, yeah, but if you don't start now, then it's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 years time.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be said for that. And whether you're an investor, whether you're a broker like myself, whether you're a solicitor, surveyor, whatever, an agent, whatever you're doing within the property industry, and any industry really, it's about constant reflection on what you do, getting feedback, and implicating it. But then, do you know what? On the flip side of that as well, you can over-egg it with the validation. I'm of the belief that if you make a decision about something, if you are top of the food chain in your company,
believe in it and run with it.
Sometimes I think it's a Barack Obama quote. If you're 51% sure, then make the decision. And that's sometimes a good thing to do. So it's a balance, isn't it? You want to get feedback, but at the same time you've got to be decisive and make decisions as well. So
to be fair, I think validation is good. Yeah, it is good. But for me, I think when you're looking to grow something and you're looking to grow quickly, you have to listen to your audience and you have to take note. And look, there's some things that people say and you think, okay, I accept that's your opinion, but I don't necessarily agree, and I won't go on to make any changes with that. But you have to listen to everyone, because at the end of the day, I might not agree with what that person said, But if 10 people say it to me, I'll have to swallow my pride and take that on board, because one person can be wrong, 2, 3 people can be wrong. If you're getting 10, 15 people, that's 10% of attendees have shared the same problem.
Yeah.
And it might only stop at 10% because you haven't spoken to the other 90, or the other 90 haven't responded. So you have to take on board, even though you think you're right. And I think in a lot of industries as well, a lot of people are so archaic with their philosophies on how business should be done. And I won't name names, but I know a few people in my life that are maybe stuck in the dark ages, that really that's what the people within property, and I'm talking about property investors and stuff. I'm not talking about solicitors and that yet, but because the property market is ever changing, there's new strategies coming into place. Everyone's almost like a bit of a Del Boy. They're looking at weird and wonderful ways that they can get involved in property with minimal or zero of their own money, and that they're always open to hearing what other people are doing. But if you look at like a law firm, law has been around for however many centuries there are, and it's always been done this way, and it's always worked that way. Houses of Parliament, you might look at it and say it's completely outdated. There must be a better way for it to be conducted. But those sectors won't listen, and they won't conform to modern day. They continue doing it the way that they do. There's still many solicitors that aren't digital. During lockdown, we realised that so many solicitors must be looking at their businesses now thinking, shit, why hadn't we digitalised? Because they were saying, I'm only allowed to go into the office 1 day a week. So whatever you bring up right now, when I go into the office, I can get that file. But if you tell me on Tuesday, I would have already been in the office. You're going to have to wait until next week now, until I go back in there to get that file. And I think you just have to grow. And yes, look, these things, digitalizing paper records, God, that would cost thousands of pounds. It's thousands of man hours,
but it's worth it.
What it does to your business in streamlining it, like nobody would have ever thought for 2 years would be working from home. But I bet they wish they preempted it, or they made the jump a lot sooner. A lot of people didn't want to conform to Zoom, but they had to. They didn't have a choice. And now it's probably quite a vital thing in respect of validating people's ID2s and stuff like that, because it speeds the process up. And I think if it's good for the business, then you need to conform and you need to jump on it. And not just be set in your ways, because what worked 20 years ago still works today.
Yeah.
But I can't believe we've been on for an hour already, mate. I know it's our first one. It's flown by, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and
me too.
It's made me. I've got loads of notes here of things that I want to cover on the next one. So
yeah, absolutely. And actually, do you know what? It's exactly what we kind of said, wasn't it? It's you and I get on anyway, and we always have really good conversations. And actually, probably 80% of this conversation hasn't necessarily been property focused. It could be related to many different types of business. But I guess there's two people who are business owners in slightly different stages of the evolution of what they're doing. That stuff is going to crop up as well. So, people that have watched this hopefully have found that side of things interesting as well. And, we won't shy away from it in future. This is the kind of stuff that we enjoy talking about. So why not? Maybe we will in the future start having, a few sort of themes that we might have running through the particular episode. But to be quite honest with you, as we've said, it's all about talking about what's going on in the moment, what we're having trouble with, what we're thinking about, how we think things should be improved. And that's, I think, what we've done. We've been successful
Massively.
with this first episode. So, as always, mate, it's always a pleasure to have a chat. So, I don't think we've got a date in the diary for the next one, but it will be roughly the same sort of time next month. We might change the times around a little bit just to test when's best for different people. But certainly if you're watching this back, if you've been watching it live or you watched it back on after we've come off, feel free to leave comments. Anything you think we could do differently in terms of formatting and whether there's certain times of the day that you think, or even evening that you think will be better for us to do these sorts of things. We're all ears.
Yeah.
This show, is so that we can share our knowledge and help as many people as possible. So it's all about the people that are watching.
Wicked. Pleasure, mate. On to the next one.
We will announce as soon as we can when the next one will be, but it will be about the same time next week. So, buddy, have an awesome rest of your week. I'm sure you've got a lot going on. I know I certainly have. I've got interviews.
I have. I fly out on Monday for 10 days, so I need to
Nice.
make sure everything is boxed off before I go, so I can enjoy myself.
Absolutely. You enjoy every hour apart from that 1 hour that you need to do your emails every day.
Yeah, definitely. Wicked. Okay, mate. Thanks a lot.
Catch up with you soon. Cheers.
Bye.